Fantastic. Hi, everyone. So thanks for coming. Our plan is not to take much of your time, but we just want to have a quick presentation, and then we hope for some kind of discussion and kind of hearing your ideas. But maybe we'll start by just making sure that everyone knows who's here very briefly. So I'm Oren Tamir. I teach at University of Arizona, and I'm interested in comparative administrative law and con law and U.S. administrative law and con law. Isul, do you want to?
Yeah, so I'm Izu, and I'm a comparative administrative lawyer, mostly based in Europe. And I'm interested in public finances. Sorry, Luis, maybe you are on the next slide.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm very happy to be here. My name is Luis Arroyo Jimenez. I teach at Spain at the University of Castilla-La Mancha, and I'm interested in European and transnational administrative law. That's my focus.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. Eduardo, you are the next on my screen.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you virtually. My name is Eduardo. I'm from Brazil. I live in São Paulo, but I teach administrative law at FGV Law School in Rio de Janeiro. So I commute every week. I'm interested in both national and comparative administrative law too. Nice to be part with you.
Thank you. Nicola?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicolas Guébaillet. I teach at University of Saint-Étienne in France, and I'm interested in comparative administrative law in the field of administrative law in the common law context versus civil law context, and about public contracts.
Thank you, Nicola. Megan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan. I'm currently based at New York University, but I'm a Canadian lawyer, and I'm doing my doctorate at the University of Toronto. I'm interested in philosophy of administrative law and comparative administrative law. Thanks.
Thank you, Megan. Indira.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Indira Latorre. I'm from Colombia. I teach in Rosario University. And well, I'm mainly interested in regulatory governance and global governance. And I work mainly in intersections between democratic theory, public law, and global governance.
Thank you, Indira. Jai? Jai, if I'm correctly pronouncing your name, sorry.
Yeah. Nice meeting you. My name is Jae-sung Kim. I'm from Korea. I'm teaching administrative law in Seoul, Dongguk University, College of Law, and I'm interested in administrative law from public perspectives and AI law and other regulations. Nice meeting you.
Thank you, Jai. Gio?
Hello, everyone. I'm Gio Kino. I'm based at Stellenbosch University in South Africa. My fields of interest are domestic administrative law in the South African context, comparative administrative law specifically on the African continent, and then from there comparing to the other families. And I am also interested in everything relating to the state as a commercial actor and how the law relates with that. Things like public procurement and these days also public insolvency. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Gio. Trevor, please.
Hi, I'm Trevor and I'm at the University of Hong Kong. I am genuinely interested in comparative administrative law in the Asian, particularly the East Asian context, as well as how administrative law is embedded within an authoritarian context, basically, or you can say authoritarian administrative law as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Nadiv.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Nadiv. I'm from Israel, based on Reichman University. I teach and research administrative law, doctrinally from the Israeli perspective, but more from comparative constitutional theory and comparative executive power theory and practice. I also worked on different designs of administrative states and guarantor institutions. and working also on informal constitutional change in the context of administrative law and informal processes of backsliding within administrative bodies. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadif. Jose?
Well, hello everybody. So happy to be here with so many friends and prestigious professor. My name is Jose Ignacio Hernandez, originally from Venezuela, although I have been living in Boston for the last 7-8 years. I am focused on comparative administrative law, particularly from the Latin American perspective, and even more specific, the Spanish American perspective. And recently, I have developed research comparing the administrative law foundations in Latin America vis-a-vis the United States, considering, let's say, the very interesting moments of the US administrative law, as my very good friend Noreen has been studying. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. Dacian, please.
Hello, everybody. Dacian Dragoș from Romania, Babeș-Bolyai University in Cluj-Napoca. I'm interested in all topics of administrative law, especially administrative procedure, judicial review, transparency, and specifically also public contracts, public procurement, PPPs, that kind of stuff. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dacian. Torvald, please.
Hello, hey. Yes, I am Torvald Larsson, Sweden, Lund University, and lecturer in public law, and I'm very interested in administrative law in general and also in comparative perspective. Judicial review is perhaps my main focus.
Thank you,
Very
Torvald.
glad to be here.
Thank you, Torvald. Fiona, please.
Hi, everybody. Delighted to be here. Sorry, I was a couple of minutes late. I am based in University College Cork in Ireland, and I work primarily in the area of administrative justice, particularly around accountability mechanisms, and in the context of the development of administrative law in Ireland and people's experience of administrative law from the street level. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you, Fiona. Lana, you managed to get in.
Yes, thank you. So nice to be here. I'm Lana Ofak from University of Zagreb, Croatia. I come from Department of Administrative Law. I teach administrative law, administrative procedure, judicial review, and I also specialized in environmental law, specifically Aarhus Convention, but also other topics of environmental law. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Lana. Said, I don't know because you arrived slightly later. We are just doing a round of presentation. Are you able to switch on your camera for just 1 minute from Istanbul? Or no?
Maybe, yeah. Okay, let's see if Said can maybe introduce. Oh, wait a second. Okay, so there's a chat. Let's start then the presentation. Okay, so listen, we want to be focused. So we know the kind of reason is that everyone's here is about the ListServ in an attempt to get you in a role of moderators, but in order to kind of put this in context and some of the ideas of what we mean by moderating. So we want to kind of do some background just for the sake of those of you who are not entirely familiar with the comparative administrative law ListServ and that project. So wait a second, sorry. This is where it's supposed to start, and let's see if it works. Okay, so the ListServ was established in May 2008 by Susan Rose Ackerman at Yale, who's kind of like, in some ways, she's considered the dean of the comparative administrative law. She's had a systematic interest of this topic for a long time, and she had established this, and she had this idea well before ListServs, I think, were popular. So in that sense, it's quite interesting to establish it. And it used to be, I'm sure many of you have heard the name. It used to be managed by Nason Mahboubi, who's now at Penn University, and has sort of drifted to focus on some other areas. And it's quite impressive in membership. I mean, according to what we have, the records are not fully updated. There's well above 500, I think 558 was the last number that I saw when someone actually tried to count, but we suspect it's actually much, much more. And it's really from across the world, both junior and senior professors from across the world. And the interest of the listserv has systematically been, although, I mean, at least formally been, though perhaps there were always kind of noises in the background, or it's kind of hard to keep those fields siloed. The listserv, as it was announced back in 2008, when its mandate was announced, was about comparative administrative law, and not what at the time was a very popular and perhaps growing ascending field of global administrative law that focuses on kind of an administrative law lens to global institutions like the WTO and various bodies created by international law. So comparative administrative law, domestic jurisdictions, and the payoff from looking across borders and comparing domestic jurisdictions' administrative laws. The listserv, really, when you look back, we have access. We are very fancy now, not moderators, but administrators. But we have access to the archives. And I actually think that perhaps everyone who is listed on the listserv can look at the archives. It used to be really active and engaging, an average of 10 to 15 notes per month on the listserv. And the notes were really kind of diverse. They used to cover many subjects like announcements of events or new publications. So see this new call for papers, or research inquiries. I'm working on X. Someone knows any work of relevance. And also internal discussion amongst scholars of current events. So if something is kind of like an opinion of note in the field of administrative law that can have kind of cross-border implications or interests, it used to be flagged on the list, and there would be kind of back and forth between participants. But in recent years, and this is kind of the trigger for why we're doing this, the listserv is rather inactive. So if you look at the average of notes, it's 2, 3, and I think that's a pretty generous read of how active the listserv is at the moment. So it's kind of like dead, or dead, 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 as Duncan Kennedy once said about the critical legal studies. So the listserv is really inactive. And what's interesting, I think, is that it's pretty inactive despite the fact that it looks like, and I'm interested to hear if you think that we got it wrong, that the community of people interested in comparative administrative law appears to be growing. And this is so even more than the kind of usual suspects of kind of, more regional incentives for integration and comparison, like in Europe or perhaps in Latin America. And in East Asia, but also from kind of non-usual suspects, countries that are not inherently interested in comparison, including perhaps even the United States. And one reason perhaps, or just, I don't know, maybe not a reason, just something to report, is that the focus of the notes of late seems to have been slightly more parochial, in the sense that it's still comparative, but more in the context of very, very specialized fields of administrative law or comparative administrative law, rather than the kind of focus that we think was evident in the past of raising broader issues of broad theoretical interest to the community, rather than kind of the intricacies of particular specialized administrative law fields. Okay, so the goal, given this context, is to revive the listserv, sort of, we use with all the pun in the world intended to make it great again, and really useful and effective, like we think it was when it was originally established. Again, I'm relatively young in the community, a newcomer in that sense, but just looking at the archives, it's quite clear that the listserv was really a kind of both a community building and a resource for information. And we want to have to foster and intensify informed exchanges on the listserv, and also increase the sense of academic community amongst all of us who are interested really in this field of comparative administrative law. Okay, and I'm going to hand it over to Izul to talk about some of the particular strategies that we have in mind. And Izul, feel free to tell me when to flip, but I'm going to flip the first slide. Yes.
Thank you very much, Oren. So we are taking over from this historical approach, and that was why Oren has this idea that we could bring colleagues as moderator from all over the world. And if you have listened to the presentations at the beginning of this call, we have colleagues really representing South Africa, Asia, so South America, the US, Canada in some ways, Europe. So we try to have colleagues all over the world to try to be the voice or the representative or the gateway to different administrative law communities around the world. And the idea is really to make these bridges to stimulate discussions, to be aware of what is going on in terms of legal development, case law development, thinking, and some of you have mentioned things like backsliding. It's some kind of trend in events, questions that come across a number of jurisdictions, and we would like to stimulate this kind of engagement across different countries' legal systems, because we believe that in the discussions there is something more to be as a community. So if we move towards who we are, and we are a little bit sorry because we are three actually. We have Mariolina Eliantonio, who is a professor of European administrative law and comparative administrative law in Maastricht, and some of you probably knows her. She could unfortunately not be here because we need to have a different time zone, but we have a similar tomorrow, and she will be there. So Oren, as he has already introduced himself at the beginning, and myself, and the idea is that among the three of us, we try to facilitate these kind of discussions, and to be there for the facilitation of the discussions in various ways. And please tell us if you want more from us at some point, or different things from us, because we are there very much to try to facilitate these broader discussions and to see where we can go from here. So we are very grateful that you have accepted to come on board of this kind of a big endeavor, as I suppose, as what we call moderator, as this bridge across different jurisdictions. There is a Google document where you kindly put your interest, and we are still collecting a few information. So if you haven't done it yet, please do go to the link and fill it in, because I think it's a way for us, for all of us, you and us, to be aware of what is going on, and maybe if we have questions, or if we have some project ideas, topics that we want to bring, we can go back to this list and see who might be collaborating with us to do something. So there are different ways in which we could see that moderation, and we are just putting forward three different models, but it's just ways and templates to brainstorm. There is absolutely no need that for you to follow, strictly one of the models that we put forward, and it's just some ideas to help the discussion forward. So the first model is slightly, please, Oren, if you could move, yes, please. And we know also that things can change as we go along. It's not a lifelong commitment, so it's something that we are happy to keep moving. So we see that we think that there might be, broadly speaking, three models, three ways of engaging with the ListServ. So the first one is what we would call thin moderation. It's really just posting information that you are aware of about events. new things happening in your jurisdiction, a new major case that the Supreme Court, Administrative Supreme Court, the Constitutional Court maybe have brought in the field of administrative law, and you think that it would be of interest for the broader community. So it's really informative in that sense. So signposting things as we go along, maybe clarifying in a couple of words or with a sentence or few lines why you think it might be important, because it's maybe part of a broader conversation, but it does not require any kind of big research. It's just really putting forward the information for other people to engage with. The second model, it would be moving along, being slightly more creative and intervening in that kind of discussion. So flagging maybe as a reaction to in the information provided by our colleagues that there's this development in the US or this development in Hong Kong. Well, there may be something similar, something different, but related in another jurisdictions that you are familiar with, and you want to engage in a slightly more proactive and discursive approach. We think that it has a lot of value to be engaged in that kind of conversation, because it would be very much what we try to develop as a community of an ongoing conversation. Then there may be something slightly more proactive if we are some interest in a particular topic. We could also be more explanatory in what the event is and bring a little bit more context or discussion, maybe critical element in the moderation. So we think that the intervention could be go one step further in the discussion. So just going through the three things, you can see that it's kind of flexible. In as I was mentioning things, it's like a spectrum of approaches, and as mentioned, nothing is wrong, nothing is inappropriate in that sense. As long as it's about fostering the discussion among us and among the other colleagues who are not moderators but are part of the list. The idea is, and we will give a few examples that Oren very kindly took from the archives, but we think that there's one thing that might be very important to try to foster these discussions, and going back also to previous exchanges on the mailing list, is that it's important to ensure that the way we present things and engage with events, information, development is of general interest, general at least for the comparative administrative law community. So it's trying to go a little bit beyond my very specific technical question that interests just a very niche part of the community. Is trying to bring out the major and the important thing. So I think, Oren, you have a couple of examples that you want to go through if you want.
Yeah. Do you want me to go through them?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So here I just took out from, so those of you who are familiar with the listserv and have been members in it for a while might be aware of those, but for the new people like I was, here's some examples to show you the kinds of interventions that we think are kind of would be helpful, and that we would really encourage you as moderators to put in from time to time. So this is an example of an announcement. There was the Administrative Law Review. It's a US-based law review in the American University Law School. Did a big issue on it was that was of interest to the comparative administrative law community. Was a comparative administrative symposium that the Administrative Law Review hosted. So one participant put in a note about this with appropriate links so that everyone could be exposed and learn about this, really what was at the time an important resource. Again, this is an example from 2021. Here's another example. So this is an email. It's just funny to read it now. This is an email from Professor Tom Ginsberg from the University of Chicago. And he's asking, of course, as everyone knows, the famous Chevron decision is now also dead, like our listserv, or maybe more so than the listserv. And he posted a question when at the time when Chevron was alive and comparative work on Chevron was still nascent. He was asking, does anyone know work of Chevron deference outside the United States? And the reason that he explained why he was asking, because at the time, and Nadiv is here, so he knows, there was bubbling up a question in Israel about whether it makes sense for the Israeli legal system to adopt also something like Chevron. So this is another very brief intervention, but immediately sparked a very long exchange on the listserv. So that's also another sort of example from moderation or a kind of intervention. And here's another one. And again, this is a kind of a question that comes out from someone who's doing research and is really kind of wanted to capitalize on the listserv to get help in the research. But in the process, it's also deeply informative about things that some people might not have been thinking about on the listserv, or it's really kind of summarizes particular developments in administrative law of potential interest for the community at large. So I would like to have some suggestions. So this is a guy who's a professor who's looking for suggestions on literature and legislative provisions on intra-administrative objection procedures in administrative law. And in the process of summarizing what is already out there and why the issue is of importance. So just brief 3 examples. It was really from kind of a quick attempt of mine to try and fish. It was a fishing expedition. I'm not sure that I found the best examples, but just to give you a sense of the kinds of things that would be great to see, and that we think that moderators should kind of put in on the listserv from time to time. And also, again, in terms of, because everyone's worried about, cluttering people's inboxes. So you can see also very brief interventions, like few sentences, a quick question. And sometimes it's okay to write like a few paragraphs to actually contextualize the issue and make sure that and in the process to make sure that everyone's informed and maybe to stimulate conversation. Okay, back to you, Isolde, and I'm going to just change the slides.
Yes, thank you very much. We will go back to these strategies because you may have questions, but we thought that it would be helpful to have these examples because of the discussions we had with some of you by email. So there are also other things that we would like to do to try to have these discussions ongoing. And one of the things is something that some of you have seen because you have registered for the event, but on the 8th of May, we will be discussing the comparative administrative law and introduction, a book by Giulio Napolitano and Leonardo Parona. We think that it would be a wonderful book for in relation to the title and the community that we are trying to build. And so the idea is to try to have these kind of events on a semi-regular basis to have some of your ideas, you coming with your perspective from your diverse jurisdictions and specific methodologies that you want to bring, or something that is for you interesting to develop further. So I'm especially keen to develop book discussions because I think it's a good way to engage and to develop our own thinking. And if anybody wants to have a discussion here or later about how we can develop these kind of book discussions, I would be very grateful to have any kind of expression of interest. But also there may be other kind of events. It's not just that we want to have book discussions for the sake of having book discussions. There may be other kind of little online discussion that we could put together in the sense of bringing the sense of community and engaging together and getting to know each other, because I think it's also a way to build project and exchange and grow in what we are doing. So that was a little bit what we wanted to share with you, and sorry for the long discussion, but for presentation, but now it's your turn to come up with your question or ideas, suggestions, or things that we may not have answered, but is burning inside. Thank you very much for your attention.
I should also say, to the extent that you don't have it, we will send you the slides. There's a recording of, we recorded this because there's going to be another session for people whose, this timing was challenging for them. But I will also send you the link for how to register for the comparative administrative law listserv, so you can, circulate this and make sure that you are registered and that you've explored maybe the archives to the extent that you want to see other examples. But we hope this is kind of, a relatively, gives you a kind of a sense of what we were hoping to do. And we're really interested in whatever suggestion you have or whatever, to answer whatever question you have. I like this. I feel this. It's exactly the experience that I have with my students. It's always like the first question takes time, and then everyone is on me, especially as I'm teaching Roe v. Wade now. Yes. Hi, Jose Ignacio. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I will break the ice. No, thank you so much once again. It is quite a pleasure to be here. I have been, in one way or the other, engaged with the comparative administrative law group for a while. I first joined in 2014, I think. At that time, I was at Georgetown University. Shortly after my very good friend Luis Arroyo, I met Professor Susan Rose Ackerman. Then I, lost contact, and in my exile in Boston, I resumed contact with Professor Susan Rose Ackerman with NASUM. 3 years ago, I think, we organized a very interesting work session on administrative procedure acts. I wrote something about Latin America, and I am so excited about this renewed effort, because I want to highlight some idea that was already presented, that it appears to be a good moment for comparative administrative law. And we need to take advantage of this good moment. It will be even more interesting, and I am now thinking, some ideas here, trying to understand why if there is a boom on comparative administrative law, why? I don't know, maybe it's concerns of democratic backlash and the role of the administrative state. Maybe it is, the so-called fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence. And I want just to share one discovery recently that I have made in Spanish America, has to do precisely with this boom that since the last maybe 2-3 years, maybe 4, the administrative procedure acts in the region has been changing to introduce novel aspects such as regulatory sandboxes, such as regulatory assessment, such as regulatory quality. And it's clearly a boom in Spanish America. I mean, since Mexico 6 years ago until the most recent cases is Peru, there is a trend here. So, I start guessing what is happening here. Why, out of the blue, Spanish American countries decided just to innovate? So this is, the kind of change that are fostering, in my humble opinion, comparative administrative law. So this is a great moment. So I just want to share with you these impressions. Once again, appreciate the invitation to be part of this wonderful group. I am more than excited and ready to help and work as necessary. Thank you so much.
Great. And I should say, if there are interesting books that capture this change in Latin America that we can bring to the kind of book event or this panel and generate conversation around this to capitalize on that moment, that would be great. These are exactly the kinds of things that we think would be helpful to bring to the book events, this series that we're hoping to kind of inaugurate on May 8th. I should say that one thing that is really important, so because it's the people who are, it's basically it's me, Isolt, and Mariolina that are kind of invested in this so strongly. So it's really important. And we are, of course, embedded in our own culture. So I'm kind of looking at the U.S. and Isolt and Mariolina's are embedded in Europe. It's really important to make sure that we are challenged and kind of know that about other things that are going on. So that's part of why we are so interested in working with other people from so many other jurisdictions to make sure that our own biases are not kind of blinding us to other important events and developments that are going on and might be more valuable than our own biases. Any other questions about or suggestions for what we can do?
Oren, I had
Yes.
already discussed with you the idea of I could centralize the new scholarship from the list members, so I could ask the list members to send me whatever it is that they publish that month, and I can make a document with all the publications of all the list members and send it to the listserv every month, so that we wouldn't have everyone writing to the listserv saying that they published something, but also that everybody could have access to everybody else is publishing.
Yeah.
So
I was hoping that you will say, yeah,
if this
perfect.
is something that is of interest, I could centralize and do it.
So tell me what I mean. I really like this idea, and I should say that there's someone, Akis. He's also was he used to have this comparative administrative law blog where he centralized new scholarship. I don't think it takes away from what Eduardo is saying, because partly it's kind of on a different platform that I have no idea how many people are actually exposed. This listserv is really kind of a great place where it seems like a lot of people are already on the listserv, and we don't want to, scare them. One thing that I want to say, so I like this idea, but I also think that sometimes, especially for people who did not yet have an opportunity to, send a note and kind of make their voices known, and introduce themselves maybe to the community. So I don't want this to be kind of take away from other opportunities for people. Hey, I've written this article, and I think it's a really actually good article. Comes in once in a few years. I actually think that something that I wrote is reasonable and not terrible, and I also want other people to read it. So I just want to make sure that this is also should be available, even though I think also just the regular stuff. It would be great if we would have a centralized source that will pop up on everyone's emails like once a month, and then interesting work in comparative administrative law. We'll have Eduardo's Corner, right? What do you think, Isul? Is this something? And are you okay, Eduardo, doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing it for Brazil for some years now. I have a profile on Instagram that I when I do this, and I have some people that assist me on doing that, so that there wouldn't be a problem.
Fantastic. I'll say that one plan that we have after we waited to meet with everyone here, we're going to send an email to the listserv announcing the change in administration and direction, and there will be also a Google file or maybe a Word file attached, so that the listserv, the passive listserv participants will be able to know about you. This is why we're collecting this Google Doc with your details, and then we will introduce ourselves. We will introduce some of the initiatives that we're doing. We will invite questions or suggestions as well, and then we can announce Eduardo's scholarship corner and hopefully institutionalize it. Did we have other participants that didn't get a chance to introduce themselves and are here? From Said, I think we didn't hear from you.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, and sorry again, I apologize for my being late. I was in a meeting, just that's why I wrote a little message from the chat. I'm Seyit Rasim Boru. I live in Istanbul, and we couldn't work with Mrs. Mari, but we always stayed in touch in the past. I'm very happy to be in this meeting. And I would ask that if you can send us this PowerPoint presentation, but you have already replied that. That's why I just want to thank you for this presentation. And I have all informations of administrative lawyers in Turkey for our conferences we organize in Turkey. So I think it will be helpful for us too. Thank you so much again.
Fantastic. Thank you. I wanted to, one thing that I just in the context of the kind of book event series, and again, I'm slightly worried about our biases. I wanted to share the one book that we're considering to focus on for our next event. And again, this is a suggestion that I'm putting it on the chat. It's a relatively new book about administrative tribunals. So we don't have to talk about that book now, but when you have time to look through it, let us know if you think it's a good fit, if you'd be interested in serving as a commentator or moderator on that book. If you know of this is a book, this is one of my concerns. It's a book about administrative tribunals and the common law world. So this, of course, means that the perspective is somewhat narrow. So is there someone who's not from the common law world who can give a different perspective? So anyway, I just wanted to float this idea that we are considering for our next book event. And luckily, so far with Edward Elgar, they were quite happy. I got a free book copy of the comparative administrative law book that we're doing the event for on May 8th. So you get some perks. I think, Trevor, did you also get the book? Or
Yeah,
on
it came
the
in
way?
the mailbox a week ago. So it's here. I'm
Okay.
reading it
Yeah.
actually just
Yeah.
today.
So you
Yeah,
get some perks from taking an active role.
exactly.
Yeah. Megan, Megan is one of the editors of the new Comparative Administrative Law Handbook, that the third edition. So maybe another thing that we can do, Megan, and tell me if you think that would be also helpful. We might do an event on the new handbook.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest that actually. We're working very hard to get that book out of the door. There are always hurdles at the finishing stages, but I think it would be a great contribution, especially given our focus in this volume, to sort of bring in a wider set of perspectives from around the world than the sort of usual suspects in this volume in particular. So yeah, it seems like it would be a great fit and of interest to a number of people in this group and beyond. I know several of the people who are listed as moderators have already contributed to the book, which is fantastic. And it would be great to be able to circulate the book's existence more widely. So thanks.
Yeah, so that's definitely another possibility, strong possibility for this kind of book event idea. But suggest any other thing, and not only limited to books. If there's a good article that can generate great conversation, for example, on the effect of, I don't know, democratic backsliding, retrogression on public administration, that would be interesting. It seems like that's a topic that is of interest to a lot of people. I mean, the U.S. is not a place now. I mean, the U.S., I don't know what to even describe administrative law in the U.S. at the moment. Gio was mentioning insolvency, or right? I think, and I was thinking that we should have also administrative university insolvency studies soon. Given the things that are going in the U.S. But anyway, I'm just saying, whatever suggestion you may have, that would be great. One thing that I wanted to maybe flag before, I think, unless people have other questions, so the idea for moderators is to one of you to opt into some kind of model, whether it's, you know, one of the thin, proactive, moderate model, and go with it. But the point that we are trying to make is that we really want to see all of you, because agreeing to this is to really make an appearance on the listserv to some capacity. And one question that it raises is that whether it will kind of exhaust or tire people if we start to get bombardment by a lot of emails. And I was wondering, I don't know if you have thoughts of how to try and control something like that, or we should just, sort of trust everyone's judgments to just be attentive to whatever is going on already on the listserv. And if there's already a discussion, to not pile necessarily on, so that people will not, run away. So we want to have, make the listserv great again, but not maybe on steroids. So I'm just flagging this concern and to kind of, to suggest to you that it's a concern of ours, and so that you know this, and to ask you if you have any thoughts of how to try and think through or regulate that, administer the administrative law of the comparative administrative law listserv.
But
anyway,
Oren, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I'm just thinking. Technically, there is a way you can see, like, okay, we can have like 3 messages today, or you can like trying to manage this in terms of the technicalities.
Yeah, I mean, as we have it configured, we actually have control about. No, I think we don't. We used to have control on for every. There are options for administrators of listserv. We can actually. There's one that is very kind of hands-on, that we have to approve each and every message that goes out to the listserv. But we are not in that model, right? I think that's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I am thinking in the. I am thinking on the regulation digest listservs, and I reserve like 3, 4 per day. I think it's too much, but when you are really engaging with someone, something, so it's really interesting for you. So, but I think that a maximum of 3 or 4 per day would be like.
There's also an option to get a digest, that you don't get the emails every day, and this is how you're kind of protecting yourself, so people can have a digest. So that's one way to, right? I think that's okay. So everyone should know this, but the point is to be, relevant, and it's fine to keep floating and have discussion that would really be of interest, rather than just a back and forth that is really idiosyncratic. But just also be attentive to, I'll say one idea, and again, we don't have to talk about it because it's getting late, but one idea that we thought, just to kind of kick things off, is to have, for example, for a particular month, to identify 4 of the moderators who will have kind of be guests of the listserv, and they will be invited for that particular month to take the proactive role. They can introduce themselves, they can sort of float some of the issues in a particular jurisdiction that are of particular interest now. And that way, it's only, you have a month to shine and a month to maybe put resources in it, but then after the month you're done, and you can go back to kind of very thin moderation, just popping up occasionally to just notify people about developments or events. Yes, Gio.
So thanks. I was recently involved in another listserv, an ADR listserv, in an online symposium they hosted. And what was quite nice about that format is this is something they just do from time to time, right? So it's not like every month, or it's just from time to time. What they do is they put together like an actual little conference program, and it runs over kind of a week or 2 weeks. Every day there's a particular topic under the theme of the conference, and they get one person to start the conversation the day by just posting a first message. That's just in the listserv, in the email, this is the thoughts on, so this one was on public procurement and ADR. So somebody would say, what is
how do we deal with public procurement disputes in Brasilia through ADR, and then the other people would comment during the day, and this would run for kind of more than 24 hours given the time differences. And then the next person, once on the list, once it's the morning for that person, they post, and that day follows. And this went on for about 10 days, and then there was just a summary at the end. And I thought that was also a very nice format to just get some real discussion going in almost a kind of conference format on a very specific topic. And that was also very comparative. So it was really most contributors there shared what in their system would be the position, and then others would come in and say, okay, this compares to what we do, blah, 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 all of that. So I think that's also something we can consider doing. As I say, definitely not every month. I think that would be too much, but 3 or 4 times during the year, have this kind of symposium running on the ListServ as well.
Okay, that's pretty cool. What do you think? So it's something worth considering, right?
Definitively, and things like what Jose was saying about innovation or something like that, or innovative regulation. I don't know. We can
sandboxes, yeah.
It really be this kind of things that could be organized around the idea of a symposium. I like very much Geo's ideas, and yes, definitely need to think a bit more about the practicalities, but it seems to be engaging and to allow people for discussions and exposure to different things. Yeah.
That's great. One final question for me. Do you think that it makes sense? I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, that we will, at least for the moderators, after we announce the kind of new management and all this, we will ask each of you, perhaps, a few each month to just have the introduction out, like an email saying, this is me, this is what I'm focused on, this is where I'm based. I don't know, something, would you be, I'm asking, would the moderators be open to that? That's something that you wouldn't embarrass you too much?
Somebody put a answer.
A thumbs up? Okay, thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Okay, so then, yeah, because it's also an opportunity for everyone here. Yeah, so, and we want to make sure that you get that opportunity. Okay, great.
Excellent.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, any other questions? No.
But I think we were also saying at one point, Oren, with Mariolina, that we might do this kind of meeting, not every month, but maybe once a year or something, to try to collect information. Also, if you come back and you think, because we are just starting something new, or, we are listening to different colleagues and trying to do our best. But if we have this kind of discussions and we start to get to know each other, meet maybe in different conferences in person or whatever, we can also have this kind of brainstorming session in a year or something, let's say, to see how we can make these things evolve. And if you have some needs, if you think, well, I'm this moderator on the ListServ, and I feel like we should try to do that or that, but please do come back to Oren, Mariolina, or me, and we can better understand what you have in mind, and then see what we can do. And it's just a starting point and an experimentation, I suppose, but there's definitely a lot of substantive discussions to be had. It's the question of how to facilitate that in the best.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone needs to leave, and and thank you for your time. And we'll be in touch very soon. Hopefully you can join us May 8th for the book discussion. Trevor, I know, will be there because he has committed, so he has no choice, and he got the book, and others hopefully will be there because they're intrinsically interested. And great to see everyone and meet everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Great evening, good day.